Hello, everybody. This is Eliakim Cohen back with a pretty mind-blowing episode of Shirim by the Sea. Today, we're going to be all over the place. It's going to be like a Seinfeld episode. We're going to talk about Rosh Chodesh, Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, the Musar movement, and Paro. Paro and leaving Egypt. And then we're going to weave it all together into one basic topic, which is the entire purpose of life is to contemplate where you are in this world. If you're functioning correctly, if you are doing the right thing, if you are staying away from bad and yearning for good. This episode is just going to be awesome. I have no idea how it's all going to come together. Basically when I do a lecture, I just write down notes and then God willing, it just comes together. This one in particular, because there's no rhyme or reason. Yesterday we did an unbelievable lecture that my dear friend sponsored on the three most famous prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, and he just sent me the most beautiful feedback. And I get so many amazing messages and comments from people they're just starting to wake up. Like I mentioned in yesterday's episode, there is a guarantee that at the end of times, there will be a mass, it's called Baal Tshuva movement, a mass Tshuva movement, meaning people will return to Hashem. It says specifically in the prophets that there will be a famine in the land. What does that mean? A famine meaning there's going to be a lack, not a lack of food, not a lack of water, a lack of knowledge, a lack of truth. And people are going to be yearning for it. They're going to see that, a lifetime made up of cubicles and Netflix probably isn't the reason why Hashem put us in this world. This episode, maybe more than anyone that I've ever done, is going to crystallize this, and it's going to come from directions that you're not expecting. This is a wild lecture. Basically what I do is I give a lecture in the morning, and then I take a 3-hour walk. During that 3-hour walk, I listen to 1 to 3 Torah lectures to get an idea to do for the next day. So I listened to an unbelievable Rabbi Gladstein lecture, and this sort of topic started to crystallize, and last night I put it all together, and I'm very excited to, this is going to be a roller coaster. You're going to have to really sort of pay attention, because we're going to be all over the place. This is like ADD doesn't even exist, but like an ADD type thing. So fasten your seatbelts. This is going to be a lot of fun. The sponsor of this lecture is, of course, my dear friend, Lisa. She has now sponsored 22 lectures. Since the last time I did a lecture, she's now gone 3 more lectures. She sponsored 3 more lectures. And she sponsored this lecture for basically the reason why I'm doing these, which is in 2023, I started doing some lectures online. And there was a man named Pinchas. He messaged me and he said, your Torah lectures are so important, I want to sponsor one. How much is it to sponsor? I told him, I don't have an amount. I have a suggestion because, again, this takes a lot of time. These are not 5 to 10 minute little snippets that you see on YouTube. These are usually an hour and 20 is the average, but a lot of them recently have hit about 140, an hour and 50. It takes a lot of time. So he said, okay, I'm sending much more than that. I said, okay, that's really, really nice. He sent the exact same amount every single month for 2 years. Once he did this, once he gave me this compliment, and once he sent this sponsorship, I thought, you know what? I could really make something of this. And that's where Shirim by the Sea started. So Lisa, I mentioned the other day that Pinchas is, he's dealing with a health issue. I'm not going to get into details because it's not anyone's business. But Lisa always sponsors the lectures for somebody. Usually a family member, sometimes a friend. She said, before you do any more lectures for me, and I have a whole list of lectures to do for her, please do one for Pinchas. And this is what she wrote. And this is so sweet. When you read the news and you hear all the terrible stuff that Jews are doing, remember stuff like this, okay? Lisa does not know Pinchas, but listen to what she wrote. Ellie, I just sent you more kesef for 3 more of your brilliant Torah lectures. 1 for our beloved Pinchas, for his righteousness, being a malach of Hashem, inspiring you to do Torah lectures for Chizik and for all the ahava and Hashem's most precious ahava of him, and Rafu Shalema Bekarov, I will keep davening for sweet Pinchas. That's what she wrote. I mean, There's nothing more heartwarming than that. And I talked to my dear friend Pincus the other day, and he mentioned something that was just very hit me very hard. He said, "I've never been more successful in business, yet my health has seemingly never been worse." He said, I feel okay, but inside, obviously, and it's just, I mentioned this in a lecture, I believe it was last week. You are never going to have everything that you want. I mean, Shlomo Melech, who had literally anything that anyone could possibly desire, he said specifically, man will live, no matter who they are, they will never even get half of what they desire. Everyone out there is struggling with something. Yes, some are definitely more serious than others. But I remember towards the end when my wife's health was awful, and she had a very good friend who I really, really liked, just such a sweet person, but she didn't have any kids yet. They've been trying for years. And it was like, what? I always wanted to ask my wife, I mean, I knew the answer, but I just wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear the beauty. So I asked her, and again, she probably knew that she didn't have more than a few months to a year left. I asked my wife, would you trade places with, I'm not going to name the name, would you trade places with her? And she looked at me like I was the biggest idiot in the world. And she said, no, Baruch Hashem, we have a son. That was the whole, she said, no, for all the health in the world, I wouldn't trade that for what we have. Everyone out there, you have something that is priceless. Not only something, you have a lot of things. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says, put dollar amounts, well at the time it was probably rubles, put amounts on the things that you have. How much could I pay you to take your eyesight from you? I don't think there's any amount of money. Okay, so you have something that's invaluable. Anyone out there have children or parents or siblings? Could I buy your siblings? Could Elon Musk say, you know what? I like your brother. He's very cool. I want to buy him as my brother, and you won't be his brother anymore. I mean, would you sell your brother? No. So everyone is struggling with things in life, whether it's health, financial issues, spiritual issues. We all need to basically have a little bit more empathy and understand the trials and the tribulations and the struggles that people are going through in life. And also use that to help you appreciate what you have in life. It's very simple. And in essence, a lot of this lecture will be funneled in this direction. Okay, so I usually like to start off a lecture with just something really, really bizarre that's happening in the world. Yesterday there was a terror attack in Gush Etzion, near like where Efrat is, if anyone knows Gush Etzion, near Hebron, where I used to live. 2 Palestinians carried out, and again, that they don't even exist, but 2 Muslims who happen to live in the land of Israel carried out the attack. They killed a security guard. They happened to be Palestinian Authority police officers that we, the Jewish people, arm and fund and train. If that's Shimon Peres, Yamach Shemo, one of the most disgusting Jews that has ever lived. This was his brilliant plan during the Oslo Accords. We would not only cede land and security, we would then fund and arm and train Palestinians to, keep order in their own. Well, sometimes they go rogue. And where did these 2 people just come back from? They recently returned to the West Bank, meaning Judea, after completing their studies in Qatar. Qatar, the one that Steve Witkoff, Trump's right-hand man on Middle East affairs, said that Qatar is doing the Lord's work. Those were the exact words that came out of this disgusting Jew's mouth. Qatar is doing the Lord's work. I'd like to know what 2 Palestinian Authority police officers, what did they learn in Qatar that made them come home and immediately kill a Jew. And what are we going to do about it? Nothing. We're going to do nothing. Okay, we've hit the low point of this lecture, okay? Now it's all going to be uphill. Sometimes it's all uphill, and then we crash and burn at the end with something just, that I want to shock you with. This was the low point. This is like the Dead Sea, and we're going to rise all the way up to the base of Mikdash. What is something that's just wild that's going on in the Jewish world right now? There's a lot of people doing tshuva, specifically former hostages. I just saw a video yesterday of Yarden Bibas, obviously the husband of the wife and the two, sons that were murdered. He was wearing a orange kippah. Obviously the whole thing about them was orange because the kids were all, gingies. They dedicated a Sefer Torah, a Torah scroll, donated by the Palm Beach Synagogue in memory of his wife Shiri, and his children Ariel and Kafir, to the synagogue in the kibbutz where his boys had their bris milah. I want to remind you of something that's maybe you don't know or maybe you don't want to think about. There were 20 localities that were basically decimated on that day. Almost all of them radical left, anti-Torah, communist type areas. Am I saying they deserved it? Absolutely not. But to ignore where it happened, when it happened, why it happened, is missing a message from Hashem. Two of the areas they tried to get into were areas that kept Shabbos, and the Hamas could not break down the gate. You can literally see this when they live streamed it on Telegram. So many members of the kibbutz have come closer to Hashem and Torah. The kibbutz where Yarden Bibas and his wife and children, Oliver Shalom, lived. They are now planning on expanding and beautifying the synagogue there. Why did October 7th happen? Why did the Holocaust happen? We don't know. What are we supposed to take from it? Are we supposed to say, where was Hashem? He didn't protect us. Let's just throw it off. No. We're supposed to do exactly what this kibbutz is doing. They're coming closer to Hashem. They're coming closer to Torah. They're not thinking about expanding and beautifying their synagogue. When you hear the rest of this lecture, you'll understand why I started with this. What else is going on? How about a few of the other hostages? Captivity survivor Keith Siegel, my Jewish identity increased during captivity. Keith Siegel says to Ruth Sheva, I drew strength from the memory of the Holocaust, the survival of the Jewish people, and how we endured, built our country, and kept it thriving. Another hostage, Omer. He was released after 505 days in captivity. He became famous as the hostage who made Kiddush on Friday nights. He made Kiddush on Friday nights in the middle of Gaza, being held by Muslims that wanted to kill him. He was kidnapped from the Nova Festival. 22 years old, Omer was originally held together with his friend Itai Regev, who was released in the first hostage deal. Upon his return, Itai told Omer's parents that Omer had begun observing Shabbos in captivity. Though the Shem Tov family did not observe Shabbos fully, they had always had Shabbos dinners on Friday night, where Omer would always make Kiddush. While in Gaza, Itai and Omer spoke about how much they missed Friday nights at home. And he said, Creator of the world, thank you for being with me every moment. Ohad Ben Ami. When 55-year-old German-Israeli hostage Ohad Ben Ami was released from Hamas captivity, he wanted to learn how to conduct Havdalah properly, the ceremony that we say at the end of Shabbos. In Gaza, he had participated in Havdalah conducted by other hostages as he drew closer to Judaism. I mean, what's the famous saying? There's no atheist in a foxhole. Why do things like October 7th and the Holocaust happen? Because they need to. Because Hashem set up a world and he gave us the rules of the world. Whether you want to follow them, acknowledge them, that is irrelevant. You are obligated on them as a Jew. Hashem doesn't care if I'm not Orthodox. I go to the Reform synagogue, so we don't follow those rules. Wrong answer. That is not how the world works. Hashem created the world. Hashem created you. There is a blueprint. There is a company policy. There is a syllabus for this world. It is not an option as a Jew. It is not a suggestion. It is not, this year it's not in my schedule, but, maybe next year it'll be on my bingo card. Again, wrong answer. We are obligated as Jews to follow the Torah. You will leave this world, you will then be held accountable for how you acted and operated and behaved in life according to this blueprint. You will be judged on this blueprint. It would behoove all of us to learn what is actually in the Torah. Again, if you don't know that you're drinking poison, but you drink the poison, you're going to die. Okay? You can't say, as you're dying, but I didn't know that I was drinking the poison. It's not fair. Well, you should have known that you were drinking poison. If you live in Wyoming and you can drive 85, and then you go to New Jersey where you can drive 55, and you get pulled over, when you say to the cop, but I live in Wyoming, we don't follow those rules. I live in, Reform Synagogue, Wyoming. We do 85. We eat shrimp and lobster. We marry gays. I didn't know the rules and regulations of New Jersey. Wrong answer. You're in New Jersey. You have to follow the rules of New Jersey. You are a Jew. You will be obligated and judged on and rewarded on what you did as a Jew vis-a-vis the Torah. I would like to think that the people that know that, there are a lot of people that know that, but are still not following the Torah. Isn't it worth starting the trend to, do you need to be a hostage in Gaza like the few that I mentioned to understand that there's a God, that he protects you, that he subjects you to different tests, whether it be health, lack of money, any of the tests that you go through in life, they're there for a reason. They're not tests, they're opportunities. They're not challenges. They're ways to come closer to him. If any of these hostages came out of Gaza more religious than they went in, whatever they suffered, Diana, was worth it. That's just how it is. What do we always hear? The Holocaust. There is a Holocaust. There can't possibly be a God. And if there is, he's a really mean, cruel God. How about the millions of people that came out of the Holocaust, just like these hostages? Closer to God, closer to Hashem, realizing the level of the generations sank to, and decided to, what? We need to turn it around. Let's start the lecture. Again, you really have to pay attention because this lecture it's like topics that seemingly have zero connection to each other, and then at the end, like a Seinfeld episode, we're going to tie it into a nice package. What's the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people? It was the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh. Okay? If first impressions matter, right? The first mitzvah given to the Jewish people was Rosh Chodesh. The mitzvah of sanctifying the new moon. Why? Why not don't eat lobster? Hashem obviously doesn't like lobster. He doesn't like us eating creepy crawly things. He doesn't like us doing lots of things. Why specifically? Have you ever thought about this? The first mitzvah given to Am Yisrael when we left Egypt as a united nation, only 20% left. I'd like to add that to this. 80% died in the plague of darkness. 80%, again, it was a guarantee. It was a promise to Abraham that his descendants would go down to a land, not their own, and they would be servants there. They would be slaves there. But then they would leave with great wealth. That was a promise. So it had to happen. Was it a promise for each individual descendant of Abraham? No. Only 20% left. 80% did not leave. They could not break away from the basically culture of the time. They could not break away from Western culture. They could not break away from Netflix and going out to the clubs on Friday night and all the other things that we see today. They could not do that. So they died in the plague of darkness. Did the promise come true? Yes. Hashem didn't say all of them will leave. Your descendants will go down and they will leave. It's a promise that, yes, X amount will leave, the ones that merit it. It's an exact promise at the end of times, too. I just said from yesterday's lecture, there was a promise at the end of times that there's going to be a mass movement of, like these 4 hostages, just realizing, you know what? We weren't living life correctly. Me, 27 and a half years, thinking that being a good Jew was just wearing my Jewish star and loving Israel and being so proud to be Jewish and never wanting an Xmas tree in my house. That's not what makes you a good Jew. What makes you a good Jew, what makes you a good, employee of a corporation is following company policy, is making your boss realize that the company can't exist without you. Well, that's what being a good Jew is. And we have the rules. And the very first rule given to us was Rosh Chodesh. Why? What is Rosh Chodesh? It's the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people. Hashem gave us control of time. Of time. Time after leaving, we were in Egypt, time was not our own. We were slaves. We're going to get into this when we talk about Paro. We had no time. Our time was not our own. We didn't have control over basically the one constant in this world, no matter where you are in the world, is time, right? It could be snowing in one place, sunny in another place, but the time is the same. Seconds tick by, the hourglass of time, continues. When were we given the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh? And also, when were we given the mitzvah of Shabbos? When we left Egypt. We were slaves. It was brutal slavery. We'll talk about this. Then we leave Egypt, and all of a sudden Hashem says to us, Jewish people, I'm giving you the mitzvah to control time. What does that mean? Hashem says to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. We're leaving Egypt. We're leaving captivity. We're leaving a place, again, where time was not our own. You've heard of army time. Time wasn't our own. We were slaves. We were we were beholden to our masters. Then we leave Egypt. Now Hashem is our master, and he gives us the gift of time. What does that mean? We control, it's called Rosh Chodesh, the lunar calendar. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, the months. Hanukkah's in Kislev, Purim's in Adar. We control the months. How do we start a new month? It was a very interesting process. In the calendar now, the following months always have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. There could be 1 day or 2 days of the new month. We'll explain that in a minute. Cheshvan, Adar 1 and 2, the years that we have a leap year. Iyar, Tammuz, and Elul always have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. The following months only have 1 day of Rosh Chodesh. Tishrei, Shvat, Nisan, Sivan, and Av. The months of Kislev and Tevet fluctuate. Some years they both have 1 day, some years both have 2 days, some years one has 1 and one has 2. How do we determine when the new year came? Now it's determined for us. Rabbi Gamliel, not the famous Rabbi Gamliel the Tana that we're going to talk about, his descendant, Rabbi Gamliel III, he basically was at a time when, the Jewish people were in very dire straits. It was at the time, that they wrote down the Talmud and the things that, the oral law was never supposed to be written down. Things got so bad for us because of our terrible behavior that there was a fear. We talked about this a few days ago in the Talmud lecture that I gave. There was a fear that the oral law would be forgotten. Being exiled to so many different places, the persecution was so great. So Rav Yehuda Nasi wrote down the Mishnah, and then for a few hundred years, the Talmud was compiled until Rav Ashi and Ravina compiled the Talmud, and then the Talmudic area was closed. So Rabbi Gamliel III came and he fixed the lunar cycle for us. He fixed it for us. So now we know exactly when Rosh Chodesh is every single month, and if there's 1 day or 2 days. Because the average lunar month is 29.52125. It's like to 8 decimal points. Just so you know that this was actually in the Talmud from thousands of years ago, but in the 1970s, NASA actually came out with the exact same number that is in our Talmud. So the Talmud gives the exact number that is basically the minimal life cycle, the average life cycle of the moon. It's like 29.52, a little over 29 and a half days. So every year we have to compensate. How do we declare a moon when it first came out? Okay, there's a very interesting Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, 24b. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua are embroiled in a disagreement about the testimony of the witnesses concerning the new moon. There used to be witnesses. The witnesses would see the new moon in the sky. They would go back and they would testify that they saw the moon reappear. The moon goes full at its highest point, and then it goes down and down and down until it disappears. And then it reappears at the beginning of the month and goes again. Just as a side note, I just remembered something really, really mind-blowing. There were 14 kings. There were 14 generations until the temple was built, until Shlomo Melech built the temple. And then there were 14 then he was the 15th generation, and then there were 14 generations after that until the temple was destroyed. Again, 29. 14 generations we were building up and up and up and up, from Abraham all the way up to Shlomo Melech, to the pinnacle. The pinnacle, the golden years of the Jewish people, was when Solomon built the temple. All the miracles that we saw, life was unbelievable. Everyone knew that there was a God, and then just, human nature took over. People decided, I want to go to the beach on Saturday. I can't not watch this new movie that came out on Netflix, so I can't keep Shabbos, and then crash and burn. 14 generations. So again, the moon goes 14 days, full moon, 14 days, back down. Generations went 14 generations till Shlomo Melech built the Beis Hamikdash, and then 14 generations until it was destroyed. So Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua are embroiled in a disagreement about the testimony of witnesses concerning the new moon. What's at stake in this argument is the establishment of the calendar for the Jewish diaspora. Once the new moon was declared in Jerusalem, messengers were sent out to the rest of the Jewish world, outside of Israel, that this was the new moon. We declared it on this specific day. Rabbi Gamliel, who was the Nasi, the head of the Sanhedrin, repeatedly accepts testimony from witnesses whose stories seemed corrupted or confused, to the chagrin of his colleagues. One of them being Rabbi Yoshua. They claim that the witnesses were giving false testimony. Wanting to flex his power and authority with regards to the calendar, Rabbi Gamliel orders Rabbi Yoshua to gather his walking stick and money and travel to Yavne, where the center of Torah learning was after Jerusalem was destroyed, on the day that Rabbi Yehoshua was going to say is Yom Kippur, to violate the holiest day of the year in a number of ways. You can't carry on Shabbos, you can't have money on Shabbos, and you can't walk out of the Techum of your area. You can't leave the boundaries of your city on Shabbos. So Rabbi Gamliel said, I am the Nasi, meaning I am the prince, I'm the leader of the Jewish people. I have declared that this is Rosh Chodesh. I do not care what you think. I am the Nasi, I'm the one that decides. I am now ordering you to come on the day that you think is Yom Kippur to me, breaking basically everything of the day. Rabbi Yoshua was absolutely devastated. Again, Rabbi Yoshua and many other rabbis said, Rabbi Gamliel is accepting terrible testimony. This day is not Rosh Chodesh. Rabbi Gamliel then says, I am the one who decides. I am ordering you to show to the people that you accept my authority. You need to come to me with your stick, your money, and leaving your boundaries. Then what happens? Rabbi Akiva comes and says, he comforts Rabbi Yoshua. He says to him, I can learn from a verse that everything Rabbi Gamaliel did is valid. As it is written, these are the appointed seasons of God, sacred convocations, which you shall proclaim. Again, God gave the Jewish people mastery over time. A new moon, anything that happens down here, it's sanctified and sanctioned in the heavens. When we declare a new moon, it's then declared in heaven. What does that mean? When we say that it's Yom Kippur, even if it goes against what Rabbi Yoshua and other rabbis are saying, it is in fact Yom Kippur. Hashem doesn't say, Rabbi Gamaliel, you really messed up. No. Yom Kippur is then set and sanctioned for that day. The Jewish people have the control of time. Again, Rabbi Akiva says, I can learn from a verse that everything that Rabbi Gamaliel did is valid. These are the appointed seasons of God, sacred convocations, which you shall proclaim. Whether you have proclaimed them at their proper time, or whether you have proclaimed them at their improper time, there are no holidays to me other than these. Meaning, even if we say that Rosh Hashanah is on Tuesday, and Hashem really should have been Wednesday, it then becomes Tuesday. Hashem bound himself by the Jewish people. We get to decide. Like it says, a tzaddik decrees, and heaven accepts. The Jewish people, first mitzvah given to the Jewish people was Rosh Chodesh, was the inauguration of the new moon. Even if we got it wrong. Even if the witnesses were lying. And Rabbi Gamaliel did accept it, it doesn't matter. When we decree, when the Nasi decreed that it was a new moon, or the Sanhedrin decreed that it was a new moon, even if we got it wrong, doesn't matter. That became the Rosh Chodesh. And everything came after that. Purim comes on a certain day of the month. So if we get the Rosh Chodesh wrong, Purim is altered, Hanukkah is altered, Rosh Hashanah is altered, doesn't matter. Hashem says, when you decree something, Shemayim will adapt. Did you understand what I'm saying? The power of the Jewish people. There's also another opinion. Rabbi Akiva says to him, my teacher, allow me to say before you one matter that you yourself taught me. Rabbi Yeshua said to him, speak, Akiva. The Torah states, with respect to festivals, the appointed seasons of the Lord, which you shall proclaim, Otam, Osam, to be sacred convocations. That's Leviticus 23:2. It's then written, these are the appointed seasons of the Lord, sacred convocations. You shall proclaim them, again, Osam, in their seasons. That's Leviticus 23:4. And it's also written, these are the appointed seasons of the Lord. You shall proclaim them, again, Osam, to be sacred convocations, Leviticus 23:37. We have 3 different verses, all using the term Osam, which can also be read as Atem, meaning you. This comes to teach you, Atem, Jewish people, are authorized to determine the date of the new moon, even if you unwittingly establish the new moon on the wrong day, even if you did so intentionally. Again, even if you did so intentionally, Rabbi Akiva is saying, even if you were misled by false witnesses, in all cases, once the court establishes the day as the new moon, it is sanctified in Shemaim, and they follow suit. The first mitzvah given to the Jewish people is time. Time is on our side. That's us. That's the Rolling Stones song. We have control of time. And after hearing this, Rabbi Akiva says, again, you have consoled me. You have consoled me. What do we say right after Tisha B'Av? What's the Haftorah right after Tisha B'Av? It starts Nachamu, Nachamu. Consolation, consolation. Rabbi Yehoshua has just been told, you know that Rabbi Gamaliel got it wrong. You know it, so did the other rabbis. But it didn't matter, because what Rabbi Gamaliel said, that's all that mattered. You know that Rabbi Gamaliel is wrong. He tells you, come basically break Yom Kippur according to your day that it should be on. He is devastated, telling the biggest rabbi in the world to publicly desecrate Yom Kippur in front of the whole nation. Rabbi Akiva tells them, why are you sad? Hashem gave us the power of time. Rabbi Gamliel said, it's the new moon. It's the new moon. Hashem adapts. Heaven adapts. We have control, not the heavens. It says so 3 places. And after hearing this, Rabbi Yeshua says to him, you have consoled me. You have consoled me. Nechamti, nechamti. You think time is important now? I mean, but Rosh Chodesh, we're literally like adjudicating time. Okay. Again, you hear this next one, and you think, okay, it has nothing to do with time, it has nothing to do with anything. It's a very famous debate between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, right? 2 legends. You always hear of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. For 2.5 years, the schools, meaning the schools of Shammai and schools of Hillel, Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, they had a massive debate. One said, it is better for man to have not been created than to have been created. That was the school of Beis Shammai. And then these said, meaning that Beis Hillel said, it's better for man to have been created than not been created. This is 2.5 years. This is the Talmud, Gemara and Eruvin, 13b. Can you imagine the biggest rabbis of the generation and their students? I mean, these weren't ordinary students. I mean, there's not a rabbi that's probably existed for the past, 1,000 years that could even come close to, probably even the most mediocre of these students. Not to denigrate rabbis, but the rabbis themselves say the same thing. We don't hold a candle to the generation before us. You have the biggest rabbis of the time engaging in one of the most bizarre debates ever. Is it better that we were created or not created? And one of the schools argued to the death that it would have been better that we were not created. The Beis Shammai literally, they fought tooth and nail. And they won. It says, the conclusion, they ended up taking a vote. The conclusion was that it was better that none of us were ever created, ever. Yet the Talmud declares, these and these are the words of the living God. What just happened here? You have a few thousand years of, Jewish history, right? We leave Egypt. We have, just Hashem's love, all these different things. Then at some point, before the era that the temples were destroyed, a little bit before that. So we're talking a little over 2,000 years ago. So again, Abraham was around 4,000 years ago. So we have 2,000 years of just King David and King Solomon and all the beautiful prophets and all these different things saying how beautiful life's going to be at the end of times. Then you have the 2 schools of the day, having a debate. Is it better that we were created or not created? After 2.5 years of ferocious back and forth, the vote was that it's better that we were not created. And Hashem, instead of saying, oh my gosh, you idiots, I'm just going to destroy the whole world. A Baskol comes down and says, these and these are the words of the living God. Meaning, yeah, awesome. You guys just, gold sticker for everyone. This side, you get a gold sticker like Oprah. Your stickers for everyone. Congratulations. I'm basically saying, I messed up. They're basically saying, Hashem, you shouldn't have created the world. We came to the conclusion, Hashem, that you got it wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of an analogy that I think I've done a good job. They just told Hashem, it would have been better if we weren't created. And Hashem doesn't get mad. He says, yeah, both these are the words of the living God. A little more background. Ultimately, they were counted and concluded it would have been preferable that man had not been created than had they been created. However, now that he has been created, he should do two things, because there's a machlokes. He should examine his actions, and he should scrutinize his actions. I mean, I don't think I can... The biggest rabbis of the time took a vote. Again, everyone knows Hillel and Shammai. The biggest rabbis of the time took a vote, and they basically said, Hashem, you messed up. You really should not have created. We're spurning the gift of life. But now that you have messed up, and we were created, we should at least examine our actions and scrutinize our actions. The Jewish people were just like, how in the world could this have happened? How in the world they could have debated anything, Should the first temple have been destroyed? No, Hashem, we're gonna basically take you to court. They're doing like a mock trial. We're taking Hashem to a mock trial, like law firms do. They do mock trials. Hashem, we conclude that you messed up. You shouldn't have created us. But now that we're here, let's, now that you messed up, Hashem, and we're here, we might as well scrutinize and examine our actions. I mean, okay, so that's a little curveball throwing into the episode. We'll find out why that matters. But I mean, I hope you understand how incredulous I am right now. Because, again, I write these things down. I don't go over them. I want to be surprised when I find something. So I never really thought about this. I've seen this in the Gemara and my Ein Yaakov that I'm on my 21st time reading. So I've read this exact thing in Eruvin now exactly 21 times, not to mention the other probably 100 times I've heard it. I've never really thought how just so unappreciative it was. It would have been one thing if the vote was Hashem certainly should have created the world. But no, the vote was that he should have created the world. You got the biggest rabbis ever, Hillel and Shammai. The conclusion was Hashem messed up. But now that he has messed up, let's roll with it. Let's take Hashem's mistake and at least make the best of it. It's basically what they're saying. So what does that mean? What's examining and scrutinizing? It's called Musar. You ever heard of Musar? It's not mustard, it's Musar. There's a Musar movement. Rav Yisrael Salanter. There's Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal. Musar means moral conduct, instruction, and discipline. The Musar movement arose in the 1800s in Lithuania and encompasses a range of spiritual practices focusing on an individual's personal characteristics, traits, and virtues, which we call midos, right? When you say, oh my gosh, that guy has such good midos, what does that mean? It means he's solid. It means he's God-fearing. It means he, thinks about the outcome of his actions. He thinks about others. He has lots of empathy. He's a thoughtful person, not thoughtful like, oh, you bought me flowers today. It's very thoughtful. Thoughtful as in, he doesn't act until he's done the numbers. So people say, oh, I'm a numbers guy. Leave me alone, I'm a numbers guy. Musar people that are into Musar they're numbers guys. They don't act without, they don't throw a rock in the water without thinking about all the different ripples that could possibly come from these words, actions, tzedakah money, perfect example. They're thinkers. The Torah isn't just cutesy stories, sitting there all day learning a Gemara. It is now taking this and weaving it into the fabric of our life. Because it says specifically that learning Torah without actualizing it, you've never learned Torah. It's a total waste of time. It's not a waste of time, but it's basically, in essence, a waste of time. If you're learning Torah, if you're learning all of the beautiful, depth and wisdom and beauty of the Torah, but you still act terribly, and we see this even in the religious world. You see people with the black hat and the cloak, and they act terribly. They don't have good midos. They might be able to give you every little Rashi from but if they don't have good midos, it's all for nothing. It's all for naught, as they say. It's like, pouring a drink in a glass with the hole in the bottom. What's the point? The point isn't that you just know things, that you just, he's knowledgeable. No, take that knowledge, and clearly it says so many times in the Torah to act a certain way. Moral conduct, instruction, and discipline, which all gets woven together to be midos. When you're dating in the religious world, first questions are always, Shomer Shabbos? Yes. Kashrus? Yes. What yeshiva did he go to? How's the family? And then, unfortunately, it's usually the last question, should be the first question. Tell me a little bit about his midos. Tell me a little about his personal traits, his characteristics. Is this the kind of guy that, is helpful to others, is, he's so sweet to his niece or nephew or his younger brother. Tell me about his midos. Tell me about how this guy doesn't just wear the outfit. Tell me how he acts. Tell me what is the essence of Eliakim or someone. There was a famous rabbi named Rav Yosef Karo. Rav Yosef Karo is the writer of the Shulchan Aruch, basically the codified book of Jewish law. He literally learned with an angel, like a lot of other different, very famous rabbis, like the Arizal, Rav Yosef Karo. The list goes on. The Malach told him, do not ever let your thoughts, even for 1 second, deviate from the Torah. Yet he also told him, do not go a day without learning Musar. Why would someone like Rav Yosef Karo, who literally didn't have a second of his day not dedicated to Hashem, why does he need to learn Musar? I would think they're the last person on earth that the angel, I would like to think that the angel would go to the biggest bore of the time, just an obnoxious person, and say, excuse me, I recommend this amazing Musar sefer. No, he told the holiest rabbi of the time, you need to learn Musar. Why? Because the more elevated you get, the more closer you get to Hashem, the more like Hashem cranks up your Yetzer Hara. Meaning, there's a very famous story in the Gemara of Abaye. Abaye was a very famous rabbi. He's usually linked with Rava. Abaye and Rava had very beautiful back and forth. Abaye was living in Babylon. He overheard a young man and a woman saying to each other, tomorrow, that we're both going in the same direction, let's go together. So he said, what are the chances that 16-year-old kids are going to be able to walk together and not sin? I'm going to follow them to prevent them from sinning. He had no doubt in his mind that they were going to sin. So he wakes up early. He follows, behind them. And then he hears them say, what an enjoyable walk we had together. You're going on your path, you're going on your path. It was so nice walking with you. Abai then leans up against a tree, and he's just devastated. He said, I would never have been able to control myself if I was in that situation. And he got very sad. And then Eliyahu Hanavi came to him and said, don't worry. The higher you are, the bigger your Yetzer Hara is. These people are not on your level. So they did not have the taiva to sin like you would have. And you're saying, Eliyahu Hanavi was saying that the higher you go, the more taivas you have, the more you definitely have an inclination to sin. Yes. What's the proof of this? Rabbi Meir is sitting on the ground. He sees a beautiful woman, on the other end of the riverbank. He starts walking across the river to get to her. All of a sudden, his Yetzer Hara ceased. And a malach comes to him and says, it was said in Shemayim that if it wasn't for the Torah of Rabbi Meir, the Satan comes to him and says that your life would be worth nothing to me. Meaning, and then the same thing happened to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva saw a beautiful woman up in a tree, and he started climbing a tree until his like the desire for the girl left. And he also was said by the same angel, if it wasn't decreed in heaven that the Torah of Rabbi Akiva is like so immense and beautiful, your life would be worth nothing to me. This is from the Malach HaMavis, like the angel of death, right? The Satan. And then what do you say? Don't sneer at people. You don't know what their Yetzer Hara is. And this is like a proof to them that they also still have Yetzer Hara. I mean, the Gemara is very clear that the two biggest rabbis like ran after beautiful women. They couldn't understand why. The more connected you get to Hashem, the bigger your challenge is. Hashem expects nothing from the radically anti-Torah, gay club-goer in Tel Aviv. He expects nothing from this person. That's sad. I mean, it's very sad. He expected nothing from me for 27 and a half years of my life. The higher you go, the closer you get to Hashem, the more He expects of you, the bigger your tests are, the bigger your Yetzer Hara is, the bigger your challenges end up becoming. Don't think, I'm going to become religious and everything's going to be on easy street. No, it's actually the reverse. It's like, the pressure cooker, what's it called? The Ninja gets turned up to an even higher notch. Why? Because the more challenges you overcome, the closer you get to Hashem. Hashem wants you to be close. He doesn't want you on easy street. He wants you to constantly, like the 4 hostages that I just mentioned, to constantly, do you need to get to the point where you're in that type of situation? No, how about when times are good? That's usually the hardest time. When times are good, when you're making tons of money, when your kids are all getting married, and like everything is perfect in life, you usually tend to slip. No, that's the time in your life where you need to say in your head, okay, things are only good for one reason. It's not because of my, business acumen. It's not because I'm such a good lawyer. It's because Hashem has given me big bracha. This is the most amount of, time that I should be getting close to Him. I shouldn't take the challenges. Those come as, little like handing you a rope to get closer to Hashem. It's a very famous book, and this has a very special place in my heart. It's called Mesilas Yesharim. It's written by the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. It is literally the quintessential book. It's like the Torah of the Musar movement. Okay? He lived a little bit before the Vilna Gaon, and the Vilna Gaon said, I would literally walk barefoot to kiss the hand of the Ramchal. It said of Mesilas Yesharim that there is not one word that is out of place. It's basically on the level of, a little bit below the Tanakh. It is, you have to read this book. It was the first book that my rabbi recommended to me, and I never thought anything of it. I read it, and I was blown away until he told my mom, I've never recommended this book to anybody right away, but I saw that your son had such a yearning for truth, like a fanatical yearning for truth, that I thought he could handle it. It's a very hard book to handle. If you actually read it with an open mind, you have no ability to do anything other than tshuva. But if you're not on that level, if you're going to look for every reason why not to, then the book will be meaningless to you. So he saw it, because I told him flat out, got out of jail, learning with my rabbi. I told him flat out, Rabbi, please, whatever truth that you can tell me. You're not going to scare me away. I'm in it for the long haul. I want, Tom Cruise in whatever that movie was. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. No, I said to him, I can handle the truth. Please, just pour it on me. Just douse me with truth every time and we did. He gave me this book, went out and bought it, sat down. And again, I was a month removed from doing coke every day. But I sat down, I read this book, and just read it a few more times. And it's, you have to get this book. Mesilas Yesharim by Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, known as the Ramchal. Every single person in the world that's a Jew needs to read this book. It's life. It is very hard after reading this to take a different path other than the one that he, examines. So basically, one of the cruxes of the book is to be able to discern what is good and bad. We have a hard time doing that in modern times. Why? Because we don't know what the Torah says. The Torah says what is good and bad. We use our own prejudices and, hang-ups and lust and yearnings to try to justify and spin, like that idiot I mentioned yesterday, that DEI, she said that math is racist. And the Fox News analyst said to her, so you're telling me that 2 + 2 does not equal 4? She said no. Math is racist because it gives you one reality. In many instances, 2 + 2 = 5. She wasn't joking. This wasn't like a satire skit. The human brain can twist anything. It can twist anything to good or bad. Hitler thought everything that he did was good. Killing the Jews was good. Ridding the world of the Jewish people was good. Stalin, everything he did, he thought was good. Getting rid of 20 to 30 million farmers so that he could industrialize the whole farming industry, he thought that was good. That dreg that's just about to be the mayor of New York, everything that he thinks. You put him to a lie detector test, he will pass. When you don't have a good moral compass, the Ramchal is saying, there's a good and there's a bad. It's probably not what you think it is. There is God's good and God's bad. End of story. Whatever path you're on, that's not, what's the book called? Mesilas Yesharim. The path of the just. The path of the just. He didn't say the paths of the just, the path of the just. There is one path in life. It's the path of the Torah. It's a path of what Hashem wants and doesn't want. If you are sitting here right now and you're going to go out tonight and you're going to eat a cheeseburger at a non-kosher restaurant, you are not on the path of the just. You are doing bad. And bad means evil. End of story. You might say, Eliakim is so mean to me. He said I'm evil. No, I didn't. God said you're evil. God said what is good and what is evil. If you're not following it, that's on you. That's not on God. He gave you the company policy. He gave you the syllabus. He gave you the chores that you have to do, like your parents give you. You could choose to do them or not. You have free will. Again, what is the only thing that King Solomon says you have control over? Whether you follow God or not. In essence, basically, Mesilas Yesharim is saying, and this gets back to time, and this gets back to the previous topic. Okay, we're going to go a little bit backwards. We're going to combine these three, and then I'm going to drop a bomb on you at the end with Paro. And then the whole thing is going to coalesce together. Amir Hashem. Basically, this is make a list of a perfect day. Make a list of a day that you would think that God would just, I'm talking about in your life, not the average. I'm talking about in your life right now, with all the things you have to do. Okay? You have to maybe drive your kid to school in the morning. So you can't just say, my perfect day is, I don't have to drive. No. With your life now, write down a perfect day that you would think Hashem would love. Then, read it out loud. Read that out loud. And see if you've gone far enough. Like if you need to maybe edit a few things, okay? When you're done with that, I'm talking about a 24-hour day. When you're done with that, then write down how you're spending your average day, okay? Then line the two up and you see how far you have to go. It's a very good, this is basically like, remember Cliff Notes, those yellow beautiful Cliff Notes that you could use to pass any test in college back in the 80s and, high school, 80s, 90s, whatever, 2000s. Make this list, and check it twice. You'll find out if you're naughty or nice. I mean, you literally will. This is such a great Rabbi Gladstein message that mentioned this in the lecture. It's very, very good. Make the list and see how much of your day, time, again, in a 24-hour day, from midnight till midnight. Obviously, part of it is sleeping. Part of it is the rest of the time. People always say, I'm too busy. I couldn't do that. I'm so busy. Catch me next week, I'm so busy. And then you'll see these busy people, you read their list, you see they have about 19 hours during the day that they could have called you back or any of the other things that they claim they're too busy for. Find this person's list, and then find the list of their actual day, and then look at it. You'll see, 8 hours of a Netflix episode. So they were too busy to, fax you that document that they needed to, but now you're seeing that they have 8 hours of Netflix. Are they living according to the way Hashem probably wants us to live? Clearly not. So again, what is Musar? Musar is getting you to take time to better your time. That's really the essence of Musar. You need to take the time to make better use of your time. That's in essence the Musar movement. We don't do that. We are so tricked by the Yetzer Hara that we have no time. Yes, and no one just says basically, unless maybe they're retired or something. Or they're honest. Some people are just honest. Say, yeah, I'm a bum. I do nothing. Sit around all day, and on my days off, and during my Coke years, when we had our family business, we sold baby furniture. On my days off, I did one of two things. I either played golf I was usually off like Tuesday, Wednesday. I'd either play golf with my friend both days, because he was off the same days. He made sure to be off the same days. Or I would sit there for literally about 18 hours straight watching like Court TV, Forensic Files, History Channel stuff on World War II, stuff like that. So I'm being no joke. In a 24-hour day, on my days off in my 20s, there were many of those days where I literally was on a couch for 18 hours watching TV, and then I would go to sleep. If I put that day up against my template of what a good day should be, that's horrifying to me now. Because now, and I did this the other day, so I thought about what a perfect day would be for me, and I'm getting closer. Baruch Hashem. That's the goal. Write down a perfect day, vis-a-vis the Torah. Don't just say, the perfect days, we took a trip to Tahiti. And no, that's not a perfect day. That's a vacation. Life is not a vacation. Life is life. Take a day, your average day in life, and write down what you think Hashem, and okay, say you work 8 hours. During those 8 hours, there's so many mitzvahs that you could earn while you're working. Whistle while you work, don't whistle while you work. Earn mitzvahs while you work. Are you paying your employees on time? That's a massive mitzvah. Are you working with basically the thought process in your head that you're working to earn money to then give to charity? That you're working, but you're so excited for Shabbos when you're not going to be working that you can start, learning Torah that day? I have a great friend, a dear friend. He is the hardest working person that I know. Unequivocally, I don't know anyone that works harder than him. I always tell him, you should listen to my lectures. I don't have time. I say, you do have time. You drive to work and you drive home. And you tell me that you listen to Dan Bongino, who I also like. But you're not getting any reward for that. Hashem gave you such a gift. Hashem knows that you work hard. Pays his employees on time. He gets so much mitzvahs from his work. It's about a 30-minute drive, a lot of times the traffic, 30 to 45 minutes, both ways. So he has a minimum hour, maximum hour and a half of his day, that if he did every single day, he dedicated just to Torah. That hour and a half of Torah learning would probably mean more to Hashem than anyone else's Torah learning in the entire world. Why? Because he has a finite amount of time during the day. He works very hard. Also works a lot on non-days doing different. I'm not going to give away what he's doing. But he has a minimum of an hour to an hour and a half every single day that he could dedicate specifically to Torah. And his hour to hour and a half mitzvah learning would trump probably anyone in the world. Because he would say, Hashem, this is the matzav that I'm in. This is the job that I have. This is the life that I currently lead. I have to support my family. I have to support my kids. All the different things. But I have this time every day. I'm going to dedicate this time to you, Hashem. I like listening to Dan Bongino, but I am now going to do nothing but listen to Torah lectures, and I'm going to send this to my friend. And I'm sure he's going to be, Eliakim, gosh, I hate you now. My friend has such an unbelievable chance. Also on Shabbos. Some Shabbos he has to work. Not working on Shabbos, he's not working on Shabbos. It's a business that you're allowed to, he's not doing anything that's violating Shabbos. So the times when he's not doing that, again, any Torah that you learn on Shabbos is times by 1,000. We learned this from the Ben Ish Chai, from the other day's lecture. So my friend has very much less finite time during the week that he can dedicate to Torah than almost anyone that I know. But let's just say he starts dedicating a good crux of this time to Torah. His reward is now infinitely greater than any of us. That's something that we should envy. I mean, he has a very amazing opportunity here. And when I send this to him and I tell him, bro, at the hour and 2-minute mark of this lecture, I talked about you. And anytime I send that to someone, I never usually talk about people by name, unless they give me permission. I always send it to them. It's an easy way to get them to listen, selfishly, to part of my lecture. But I also want to help. I know the immense reward that is waiting. I mean, if I knew that my friend was like walking past a treasure, would I not call out, hey, bro, you got a massive treasure right, 10 feet to the right. Go pick it up. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll see the results. I'll see if he's still my friend on Monday. Again, take the list. When you claim you don't have time, take the list, write down just an average, perfect day that you would think in your current lifestyle. Again, you might work from 10 to 6, like we did. We were open from 10 to 6 at the baby store. So from 10 to 6, now I'm working. Can't sit there and just learn Torah. But I can treat every customer with respect. I can do a big Kiddush Hashem. They used to see me wear my kippah during the week. I would make sure that I treated them so nicely so that they would leave thinking, that's what I'm talking about here. Make this list, okay? But put a lot of time into making the list. Read the list over and over again until you think, you know what? This is definitely, in my current, this would be the ultimate of serving Hashem. And then write down your average day currently and see the gaps. See where you can make it up. I am basically crushing my day now, Baruch Hashem, until like 4 o'clock. From 4 o'clock on, I'm I rewatch my lecture, which is great. I work on the next lecture. But part of that time is, looking at the news on my phone and then making dinner. My dinners are longer than we have family dinner every night. So I've started now. I realized that was a problem. So I started, as I'm cooking now, I'm listening to, that's when I'm starting to, again, rewatch the lecture from the day. So I've identified a weak point in my day. I'm flying. I mean, I'm literally almost at the perfect part of my list until 4 o'clock. And then it's just, then I'm halfway there. I want to be all the way there. I want to look at these lists. I want them to merge perfectly. And I want to go even farther. Then I want to say, okay, you know what? I've done this. I want to now let's get into the nitty gritty. We're just doing a basic, right? You'll see, look, you'll be proud of yourself for a lot of your day. You'll say, you know what? I used to only listen to Torah lectures for 30 minutes. I'm at 2 hours now. I know dozens of people that watch every single one of my lectures because they tell me. Dozens. So I know that at almost any point during the day when I'm taking my 3-hour walk, someone is watching my Torah lecture. My goal is that my entire life, multiple people are watching all my lectures. I want to be earning mitzvahs every second. So my lectures are long. So I know that anyone that's committing to watching all my lectures, they're earning at least an hour, 20, 30, 40 minutes every day. That's awesome. But then you'll see, and one of my friends, Malka Rush, she doesn't mind that I mention her name. She said she just started now not looking at her phone first thing in the morning and before she goes to sleep. Remember I told you that she had she put 7 things on her like checklist of things she wants to work on. One of them was like scrolling less on her phone. So she's now dedicating an hour in the morning and an hour at night to not, first thing when she wakes up, first thing when she goes to sleep, to not being on her phone. This is what Hashem wants. He wants growth. He wants self-reflection and introspection and just figuring out, how can I better myself? How can I come closer to you, God? You gave me such amazing tools. How can I sharpen these tools? But what's the problem? Most people never for 1 second in their life will do this. For 1 second. We are so busy with being busy. You ask a kid, oh, did you clean your room? No, I was too busy. This kid played 16 hours of, I don't even know the games, thank God. Fortnite or something. He played 16 hours of Fortnite. Mom, I was busy. Kids these days don't even look, no eye contact, no nothing. No, just, oh, Mom, I was too busy today. I was busy. I played Fortnite. What'd you do? I played Fortnite all day. Played Fortnite all day. Wow. And you think, wow, what a loser. No, you might be a loser. How many Netflix shows? How many Hulu things? How many, I don't even recognize TV anymore. It's like Hulu, Paramount, HBO Max, Cinemax Plus. I don't even know these. Thank God. I realized that TV back in the day used to be a very big part of my life. So I eliminate. Do this. First of all, identify the good. It's not going to be good if you're writing down the list and the things you're writing down as like what you think a perfect day is not good in the eyes of Hashem. You have to first identify what is good and what is evil. That's what Mesilas Yesharim says. And then write it down. Then write down how you're living your day. I'm telling you, this is an exercise everyone should be doing, especially since, the 3 weeks are coming. Most of you will watch this episode on the 17th of Tammuz. You'll be fasting. I'm going to do minimum 2 lectures on Sunday that'll be uploaded next week. Because what else can you do during a fast day? Can't go to the beach. I can't walk. Can't do anything. I want to just sit and do as many lectures as I can. Contemplate what is good and what is truly bad. Okay? Now, how are we going to end this? Okay. We're going to end with Paro. And you're going to think, okay, Eliakim, you've been all over the place here. How in the world is this going to tie back in at the end? That's actually a good question. Therefore, say to the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will take you out from the burdens of Egypt, and I will save you from their labor, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. An outstretched arm. Okay, Hashem couldn't just take us out with a normal arm. And I will take you to me as a people, and I will be a God to you, and you will know that I am the Lord your God, who has brought you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Again, we're talking about, I will save you from their labor. I will bring you out from under their burdens. I will bring you to a land concerning which I raise my hand to give Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and I will give it to you as a heritage. This is what Hashem said to Moshe. He said, say this to the children of Israel. He did. Moshe spoke thus to the children of Israel. He basically said everything Hashem just said. You'll be free, taking you out from under your burdens. But then what does it say? But they did not hearken to Moses because of their shortness of breath and because of their hard labor. One of the most powerful life lessons is embedded in this comment. Moshe spoke thus to the children. Hashem just said, don't worry, I'm taking you out from your labor, from the slavery, from the burdens. Don't worry, my beloved Yehudim. Hashem spoke and said, Hashem said this, children of Israel, but they didn't listen because of their shortness of breath and their hard labor. Okay? And with an outstretched arm. What in the world does that mean? Again, Hashem has no form, but things are written like Hashem gets Hashem's hand, Hashem's arm. Divrei Chaim says, 21:16, that an outstretched hand, meaning an outstretched arm, means his sword is drawn in his hand. In this particular context, it was stretched over Jerusalem. So anytime we see this outstretched arm, it means the sword. Okay? Most of you know the 10 plagues. Did any of them come with a sword? No. Yet the Haggadah, there's something about a sword in there. The fourth and final verse of the section, known as Armi Oved Avi, describes various aspects of the divine redemption. God liberated us from Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. These clear physical descriptions of hands and arms are incompatible with a non-physical God, like I said. As such, the Haggadah interprets these descriptions to be various components of the redemptive process. The Haggadah decodes the term outstretched arm, or zeroa netuya, by citing a verse in, like I said, in Divrei Chaim, Chronicles, in which David views an angel with an outstretched arm clasping a sword facing Yerushalayim. It's an ominous threat. Outstretched arm means the sword. Okay? But we have no record of a sword playing any part in Egypt. Right? Okay. The Mechilta, which is basically the Midrash on Exodus, on Shemos, says this. This is the only time, basically in Jewish history, that we were in one location. We were very vulnerable. Where was the entire Jewish world at this time? Okay, we weren't Jewish yet. We didn't get the Torah. But we were the Bnei Israel. Where were all of the Bnei Israel at this point? We were in Goshen, right? Goshen was a land in Egypt. Goshen to this day is still ours, by the way. You know, Goshen was given as a gift to Avram Avinu by Paro. When Paro took Sarah and the Malach came and, threatened him, he sent away Abraham with great wealth, and he gave him the land of Goshen. There is a part of Egypt now that it is ours. That is the land of Goshen. Again, we were very vulnerable. The Netziv says, all throughout our history, when the Gentiles attack us in one place, we always, survive in a different one. What's this like? When Yaakov was meeting Esav, what did he do? He set up camps. It was the maidservants and their kids, and then it was Leah and her kids, and then it was Rachel and Yosef and Binyamin. It was a tactic. It says specifically, if they destroy one, the other will survive and run away. We couldn't do that in Goshen. We were slaves. We were under the dominion of the Egyptians. No one had ever left Egypt. That's why it was if people understood this, it was such a shock that the Jewish people were able to leave Egypt. No slave had ever left Egypt, not even one. And what happened during this time? It's very strange. And I never thought about this until I listened to the Rabbi Gladstein lecture. Let's just say that you have like a expensive puppy. It's my puppy, but you've stolen this puppy from me. And I want the puppy back, and you won't give the puppy back to me. And the person says, you'll have to kill me first to get the puppy. So I start beating this person and beating this person. And this person sees that he's not going to win. That clearly I have more strength. What's the logical thing that this person would do that hates me to the puppy? Would he not just kill the puppy? Does that make sense? You hate someone so much. They have something of yours. You realize you're not going to make it. Won't you just basically suicide bomb whatever, the person wants? The Egyptians see that Hashem clearly wants the Jewish people to leave Egypt. Each plague lasted a month, but the plague itself lasted 7 days. But each plague was 10 months of time. So frogs came for a week, and then there was 3 weeks, downtime, recovering from the frogs, and then boom, lice came. Every plague is the same. A week, but they all lasted a month. During the other 3 weeks, at some point, don't you maybe think that the Egyptians would have just said, clearly we're not going to make it. Hashem is just going to, at least we can take the Jews with us. I mean, doesn't that make sense? You literally see this in Gaza right now. How did those 6 that were murdered, the soldiers found them with fresh bullet wounds to the head. The captives realized they were going to be killed, so they took 6 Jews with them. I mean, it's horrible, but it's logical, is it not? So how in the world for 10 months did the Egyptians, one after another, just get beat down after beat down from Hashem and never once, retaliate and just say, you know what? We're not going to make it, but we're going to make damn sure that they don't make it either. Why didn't they all just surround Goshen and just go nuts, just pogrom, Holocaust, try to take some captives? Why did they do that? Ever thought? I never thought of this my whole life. It's a really very logical question with very amazing, consequences here, and it's going to tie the whole lecture together. What was the outstretched arm? What was the sword? Okay? The Midrash says that Hashem basically destroyed the Egyptians during these 3-week periods of break. Basically he himself just slaughtered these Egyptians with plague, disease, whatever. Doesn't matter what it was. He took out, Hashem what did Israel do to Iran? They just decapitated the top, echelons. The scientists, the heads of did the same thing with Hezbollah. What's the goal in the army, right? To destroy the other person's army. But it's like in chess. Taking out the pawns, fine, that's great. But when you can take out the queen and the king, that's your first move. No one sits there in chess and you can move your piece to either take a queen or take a pawn. No one goes, okay, I want the pawn. This is a very useful piece. You take out the queen. So what was Hashem doing during these 3 weeks to just preoccupy the Egyptians and stop them from just slaughtering all the Jews? Because again, they all have free will. They all saw the writing on the wall. I don't think many Egyptians, after at least the 4th, 5th plague, were like, guys, things are going great in Egypt. Now's definitely the time to open up a new Ford dealership. Things are just getting bad. And what did they say specifically during the 8th plague? Arbe, right? The grasshoppers. What does his own people say to him? Paro, let them go. Don't you know that Egypt is lost? So we know specifically in the Torah that these people knew that Egypt was lost. So if Egypt is lost, why not take some Jews with you? What a great question. It's right in the Torah. Paro says, who's going with you? When they come back for the grasshoppers, who's going with you? Everyone. No, only the males go. And the Egyptians, they say to Paro, let them go. Don't you know that Egypt is lost? If you know that Egypt is lost, and you're basically at the end, why not just all of you go to Goshen and just start killing people? At least take some Jews with you. Like you see, logically, all over the world, but specifically in this Gaza war. Those 6, Hirsch, he was one of the 6, and also that girl, I can't remember her name. They knew that they were done. The Hamasniks that were holding them, and they just, okay, if the 2 of us are, however many it was, I think it was 2 or 3, if we're going to die, we're not going to leave these 6 Jews, 6 bullets and 6 heads. What stopped the Egyptians? Hashem, his outstretched arm, his sword. Why? The clear answer is obviously Hashem was saving the Jewish people. Why did Paro? Why did Paro have to witness this whole scene? Imagine this from Paro's point of view, okay? Let's all, step into the wicked shoes of Paro for a second. Paro's the leader of the country. He's enslaved the Jews for, there's a debate. Is it the same Paro? Is it a different Paro? Just say 210 years that we were enslaved. The labor was backbreaking. It wasn't just Egypt enslaved the children of Israel with crushing harshness. They embittered their lives with hard labor. The Egyptians stopped at nothing in their efforts to breed the Jews into a broken, subservient slave nation. Techniques include physical torture, such as engaging the Jews in aimless hardship, like building cities on quicksand. Imagine building a whole, apartment. And you don't even want to do that, but then you see that apartment just sink into quicksand. I mean, you're already miserable, now you're double miserable. The cruelty of the unrelenting physical torture went without saying. Again, the Torah portion describes this eloquently. Egypt enslaved the children of Israel with crushing harshness. They embittered their lives with hard labor. That is Shemos 1:13. Then what does it say? Once Moshe comes back and Paro sees that, okay, there might be an opening. There might be a chance that these slaves are going to start oh my God, the redemption might be here. What does he say? You shall no longer give straw to the people to manufacture the bricks as yesterday. Let them go and gather straw for themselves. But the quota remains the same, meaning it was a quota that was not attainable. Do not reduce it, for they are lazy. Therefore they are crying out, saying, let us go out and bring offerings to our God. Let the work be heavier upon the men, and let them not pay attention to the false words. That's Shemos 5:7. Midrash says, why is this happening to us? Meaning the children of Israel are talking. Why would God allow his beloved children to suffer so much? Again, just like Yirmiyahu we talked about yesterday. Why do bad things happen to good people? And when the work was finished for the day, or on Motzi Shabbos, when they had the day off, they would pull out their treasured scrolls and desperately search for answers to these difficult questions. Paro saw what was happening and immediately put a stop to it. He gave the Jews more work to do until they had no more time or energy to think about anything besides getting to work, coming home from work, and going to sleep. That's what Chazal says. Okay. Let's tie this all together. He gave the Jews more work to do until they had no more time or energy to think about anything besides getting to work, doing their work, coming home from work, and going to sleep. While the Egyptian slavery was characterized by hard physical labor, oppression, and degradation, the servitude of God is one of spiritual growth and refinement. Obedience and commitment to the performance of God's commandments of his moral code free every individual and the nation as a whole from servitude of one's fellow man. Paradoxically, once Israel commits itself to total servitude of God, it acquires liberty and independence. Okay. Why was Paro punished? That his entire country collapsed all around him at all times, even though the plagues only lasted 1/4 of every month. He gave the Jews more work to do until they had no more time or energy to think about anything besides getting to work, coming home from work, and going to sleep. Paro was punished, mida keneged mida, and so was the country, that every single second of every single day, they were just getting relentlessly beaten by Hashem. The Egyptians did not even have 1 second. I don't have the time. They didn't have the time to even contemplate, well, I should at least take some Jews with me. I'm going to die. I should at least kill some of the slaves. Did they kill any of the slaves? No. It doesn't say they killed the slaves. Do you understand the the gem that we have just uncovered. When was time given to the Jewish people? The power over time was given the second they left Egypt. Like as they were leaving Egypt, Hashem was saying, for 210 years, you have had no time. You've had nothing. You've been totally serving a foreign power. You are now my servants. You are my children, but you are also my servants. It says both. I am now giving you the power of time. Paro had no chance to even think of anything devious against the Jewish people. I mean, don't you think after the plague of blood, and then frogs, and then lice, okay, those were like, it wasn't like people were dying. But then they started dying, the animals were dying of pestilence, and then all the boils, and then the hail. I mean, people certainly died during that. Don't you think at some point Paro would have just said, okay, guys, we're not going to make it, but let's at least suicide bomb the rest? Why didn't he do that? He didn't have time. He didn't have time. He was punished measure for measure. He took away the time of the Jewish people. He thus was punished with no time also. He had no time. He had no time to think logically, rationally. We hate this nation so much. Why don't we just kill them ourselves? Again, the plagues came for a week, and then they lasted a month. Like the after effects lasted a month. There was a month. There was a week. Blood came for a week. Then Moshe Daven and it went away. And then 3 weeks, it's like, okay, it's the talk of the town. The Egypt Times. Oh, God, the blood was here for a week, and then it's gone. So during those other 3 weeks, I mean, wouldn't you just start killing Jews? Why? Why couldn't they? They didn't have the time. They didn't have time. Hashem scrambled their brains, just like the Yetzer Hara does to us. Now that you know this, how stupid it was for the Egyptians to never once just say, okay, we're not going to make it. Ship is sinking. Let's at least, have some other people sink with us. No, they couldn't do that. Hashem's outstretched arm, he blocked it from them. He gave them no time. He scrambled their time. Who scrambles our time? The Yetzer Hara. Constantly telling you, you're busy. You're busy. You're too busy. You've done so much today. You can't do this. Oh, I worked on my yard today. I don't have any time to listen to Eliakim's lecture. Yeah, definitely mowing your lawn for 3 hours was really more important than the hour and 40 minutes that this lecture is going to be. But you'll go outside and you'll say, wow, that lawn looks so good. And you'll be able to twist it and justify it because the Yetzer Hara is very, very good. It's the best negotiator in the whole world. You will justify that 3 hours wasting your time on your lawn, and then you'll be able to claim, I had no time. I had no time. That's life. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argued. It's better to be created or not. The conclusion was that it's not. Why? Because look at the world. Look at the world. If we were all created and everyone's doing amazing and everyone's, then obviously. But that wasn't how it was at the time. Even at that time, with these amazing rabbis. We talked about it yesterday with the 3 prophets. Even at a time when the first temple was standing and they saw 10 overt miracles day to day in the temple, they still engaged in idol worship, immorality, and murder. Why? Because the Yetzer Hara is the most powerful entity in this entire world other than Hashem. And it can trick you into thinking, A, this is good when it's really bad. B, this is bad when it's really good. And always keep you busy. Always keep you occupied. Just like the Jews in Egypt had no time to even dream of a different life, a different world, redemption. What does it say? Moshe comes and says, we're going to redeem you. And the people, they didn't listen. Why? What does it say? Let's go back. Because of shortness of breath and because of their hard labor. They didn't even have a time. Well, take some time to catch your breath. They didn't even have time to catch their breath. Because of their shortness of breath. They always had shortness of breath. They always were too busy. What does the Yetzer Hara do in the modern generation? Oh, that new Netflix show is coming out. My friend said it was awesome. I'm going to binge watch it. I'm going to watch all 12 episodes in one day. And then you will have the gall to claim at the end of that day that you were busy. You didn't have any time. And again, go back to the piece of paper that you should be writing after watching this. Write down your most perfect day. Is anywhere in a most perfect day, according to Hashem, that you will sit there and binge watch Netflix for 12 hours? No. How about one episode? Also no. What is Mesilas Yesharim? Again, is the path of the just. When you can identify and delineate and start living on and based on this path, you will start to see things in your life that are evil, that you have no idea that they're evil. And you will just start throwing away. And who is the last entity in this world that wants you to take a look at yourself? The Yetzer Hara, right? The Satan, your evil inclination. And what does he do? He occupies you your entire life so that you go to sleep every single night without contemplating your day, your actions, your thoughts for even 1 second. Why did the Malach tell Rav Yosef Karo, who literally was either learning Torah or thinking about God every second of his earthly life? Why did the Malach tell him, do not go a day without learning Musar? Because we can't live without what's good, what's bad, how am I scrutinizing and examining our actions, taking stock of the day, and finding out ways that we are not living up to our expectations, ways that we are exceeding our expectations, and rolling with that and delving into that even more so that you exceed it even higher the next day. Why aren't we doing this? We sit there on Yom Kippur and everyone has these fleeting thoughts of tshuva. And usually the few days and the few weeks, it's just like New Year's. Oh, I'm going to go to the gym. Why by January 23rd, you're sitting there with chocolate over your face, stomach sticking out, on your 8th tub of ice cream? Why? I was busy. I lost my time. I lost my day. The rat race of life caught up with you again. New Year's ends, you come back to work, and all of a sudden, too busy. You don't care about your gym membership anymore. That's life. You have a built-in enemy inside of you called the Yetzer Hara, who is so much more motivated than you. I mean, that's the and by you, I literally watch all my lectures again, so I'm not saying I'm speaking to me. The Yetzer Hara. Why do we keep losing wars with the Muslims? And you'll say, oh, we're winning it. No, we're not. We're not. They just interviewed 100 people in Gaza, and they asked them, knowing what you know now, would you do October 7th again? Every single one of them said yes. Why? Because they spend every waking second of every waking day wanting to kill every single Jew in this world. We spend every waking second of every waking day thinking that we can still make peace with animals. You have a Yetzer Hara inside of you. Every single one of you is a Jew. And this Yetzer Hara, every single second of every single day, is trying to distract you so that you live your entire life without ever contemplating and examining, basically like the Jews for those 210 years in Egypt, when they couldn't fathom any other reality than just the backbreaking labor and the trauma that they were undergoing. If you take the second to see, and you write down these two lists, you will see just how far you have to go from the ideal, not your ideal, from the ideal. Because I know that your ideal is, a really nice day on a boat in Tahiti, and then, a lobster dinner, that would sound, and then some nice violin music, as I'm having some cocktails. Yeah, that's a nice vacation, minus the lobster. That's not life. Take your day-to-day life. Again, write down how you think Hashem. I'm not saying, okay, now I need to quit my job. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the life that you are living now, with the 24 hours in the day that Hashem has given you now, write down how you think Hashem would want that day lived. according to the Torah. Then write down how you were living that average day. Read them out loud, and then look yourself in the mirror, and you'll say, you know what? Making good progress on this, really failing in this. I did it the other day. From wake up until, again, like, there's just a point in my day that it's just, I crash a little bit, and I'm working on it, because I don't want any points in the day. I want a carbon copy. I want a list on the right being the same exact as the list on the left. That's something to shoot for in life. Not, I'm going to watch, I got 3 days off on work. I'm going to binge watch 3 new series. Yeah, good luck. That's awesome. That's really going to make you excel in life. 3 new Netflix episodes. We'll leave it with this. When that list on the right is identical to that list on the left, you will know that you are truly on the right path. And then you know what? Then make another one. Make an even better one. Because once you're at that point, you'll see how much farther you still have to go. And like the biggest rabbis of all time, even like a Rav Yosef Karo, who is literally learning with an angel, whose day was perfect, not 1 second of his day. And the angel still told him, no, you have not made it yet. You still need to learn Musar every day. You still need to work on your midos, because until the day that we die, we are never a perfect Jew. But the goal is to constantly want to be and strive to be and, work to be. And how do you work? You write down these lists. You check them. You see the things that you're proud of and that you're doing so well on, and you do more of them. You see the pitfalls. You see the evil. It's good or evil. There's things in your day that are evil, that are taking you down an evil path. It might be, I play video games for an hour. Is it as evil as, going out and having relations with a prostitute? No, but it's still not good. It's still not how you should be living your day. When you finally can grasp this, and what came right after that was the first 2 lectures I did this week. What came right after leaving Egypt? What came right after the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh? Hashem gave us the mitzvah of Shabbos, a day of the week where we don't have any of the hang-ups on your list. You're not going to have the work. You're not going to have, I'm in the car for an hour and a half. At least at this point, I should be learning Torah. You have a break from Hashem to do what? To utilize your time to tap into the spiritual and to spur yourself on for the next week. That is what Shabbos is. It is Hashem knowing, I know the way I created the world. I know all the different hang-ups. I know all the different challenges. I know you don't want to be sitting there at work doing your TPS reports, sitting in traffic. That's why I gave you Shabbos. And what are you supposed to be doing on Shabbos? Getting the most merit that you can. Everything on Shabbos is 1,000 times greater. Learn the most Torah. Spend the most time with your kids. Get reconnected with your wife. Do all the things that are good. And once you keep doing more and more good, not only will you start identifying the bad more, you will have such an urge and a yearning and a desire to stay away from it. I'm wishing everybody a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos and an easy fast on Sunday.